If you had one more day to live, what message would you share? If you had pointed a camera to the 20-year-old who didn't yet know what I'd experienced, she couldn't know because it's something you have to experience. It's a feeling, it's inside. We all have a unique brilliance within us, ready to be unleashed. And it's that unique brilliance that is the way to greatness. And if I had more time, I would do everything in my power to help people discover that. So luckily, I have about 10 minutes, and I'm so grateful to be able to share with you what I found to be so extraordinary. But let me first begin by introducing myself. My name is Giulia Nahmany. I'm an actress, producer, entrepreneur, and a transformational visionary. I was born in a small town called Kfar Saba in Israel, and my mother told me that I was a miracle because the doctors told her she would never be able to have more children. So here I am, ladies and gentlemen, a live miracle. And by the age of 10, I already moved to 3 different countries, changed 3 different schools, and learned 3 new languages. And it was from a very young age that I created a mechanism in my mind that was constantly seeking outer validation in response to the mean behavior that was heading towards me as the new girl. I know now that the root cause for this was because my parents didn't have so much time to spend with me, and all I needed to know is that I am worthy and loved. And for a very long time, this thinking mechanism was the driving force to all my decision makings and actions. And so my wonderful mind came up with the best compensation for the lack of attention that I was receiving at home, and decided that I was going to be a star, which is the most efficient way of receiving attention from the outside world. I wanted to be successful and known, to be seen and expand my creative nature. And I was quite successful. By the age of 17, I already had my first TV show. I then went on to sing, act, produce, and create prosperous endeavors. And although I had succeeded in many things that I had wanted in my life, I had longed to step into a larger life, into a larger destiny. I knew I had something of value to contribute and felt called to this larger life. I didn't have the words to explain it. I just felt continuously frustrated and stuck, and I thought that if I just continued to do what I'm doing, the gap between my yearning potential and the power to materialize it would magically appear. And with this feeling of constant frustration and stuckness, social media arrived. And I started to compare myself with everybody around me. Everybody was so perfect and thin, and those Hollywood stars. And this social media became an obsessive instrument that was affecting me in very negative ways. And according to a survey, spending more than 3 hours a day on social media puts adolescents at a higher risk for mental health disorders. 13% of kids aged 12 to 17 have reported depression, and 32% have reported anxiety. That's 32%. And 25% of 18 to 25-year-olds have reported some sort of mental illness. And of course, I never shared this anxiety with anybody because those feelings were shameful, because to the outside world, I had it all. I had the husband of my dreams. I had 2 little amazing girls. I had a thriving career. So nobody could have known what I was feeling, what was in my heart, and what was in my soul. And I could have never known what was going to happen. And sometimes you have to lose yourself before you find yourself. And on September 8th, 2014, the life I knew was shattered. I lost my mom to cancer. The woman who I loved and idolized more than anything, she was my role model, the representation of how a woman should be. Strong, independent, charismatic. I couldn't believe that my daughters would grow up without a grandmother. And I was finally able to spend the time that I didn't have in my childhood with her, and now she left me for good. And so the Giulia that had grown up with the ability to do or achieve anything, she disappeared. She vanished. From the false confidence that I had been building all my life, I had become a woman filled with fear, anger, insecurity, doubt, and the list can go on. And of course, I kept appearance to the world and made it look like everything was okay. But inside, I was screaming from the top of my lungs. And my suffering was so big, so immense, that my physical body started to manifest symptoms of numbness and unexplainable pain. And I remember being one day on a trip to Los Angeles, and I was in my hotel room, and all of a sudden I had the feeling that I cannot breathe. And I ran down to the lobby and I screamed, "Help, help, I cannot breathe, I cannot breathe." And they called the paramedic, and the paramedic came and they gave me an oxygen mask. And the paramedic showed me, they told me, "Look, ma'am, your oxygen level is 100%. You're having a severe panic attack." And it was there and then, all alone, far away from home, in a moment of complete desperation and fear, that I had a revelation, a breakthrough. It was like a voice in the back of my mind telling me, "Giulia, you did not fulfill the mission that you came on this earth to do. That my mom never fulfilled her mission. She sacrificed her life and suffered in silence." And I understood there was a greater reason for my pain and for losing her. And as the famous poet Rumi said, "Let pain be your cure." In all our stories, even in the ones I acted in, there's some revelation in our deepest pain. And that was true for me as well. And it was the truth is all the time, as the Buddha said, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. And in that moment I thought, and I understood, that greatness is the moment you choose you. The moment you decide to ignite that inner greatness, then destiny towards greatness is done. And that was when I began my own powerful transformation. A transformation which allowed me to heal. And a transformation I harnessed and accepted my inner brilliance. And I envisioned the life I absolutely love. I saw a great future ahead, and a life I love waiting on the other end. Because you can't live a life you love unless you first imagined it. So how did I do it? I created a method that allowed me to thrive towards my highest potential. My 3 T's, as I call them: trust, transform, and transcend. Number 1, trust your authentic mission. Each one of you has something that you're meant to do that only you can do. It's a gift that you received, that you were born with. And that is why I want you to tap into that uniqueness, that greatness, that authenticity that lives and breathes within you. To trust that whatever you went through or will go through has happened for a reason. To trust that any answer that you're searching for is within yourself. To trust in that unique brilliance inside of you. Often, we compare ourselves to others, especially nowadays because of social media. We constantly see this false perfection, and then there's this voice in our minds that tells us that we can never be like those people that we compare ourselves to. I know that because that was one of the main reasons that made me suffer in silence. And so it took me a very long time to realize this and understand. And I'm sure many of you have felt like this. And that is why we must use social media as an empowering tool to project our brilliance, not for putting us down. And the only thing standing between the life we want is our fear. Fear of failure, fear of our imperfections, fear of how we will be perceived by the outside world. But it is only when we cross beyond the threshold of fear that a life of greatness is there waiting for us. And the way to do that is to become best friends with our fears, to use fear as fuel to our brilliance. That is the way you discover greatness. Number 2, my second T, is to transform your story into your message. I'm sure many of you have said to yourselves that you can't do certain things because of past failures you've had. And so these past failures don't define your future success. It's part of your beautiful story. It's part of your unique future story. And that is why, do you know that one of the most successful people in the planet had multiple failures? Take Walt Disney, for example. He was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and for having no original ideas. And the Beatles, who were rejected by a recording studio because they didn't like their sound and they told them that they will never have a future in show business. Well, we know where they ended up. That is why it is imperative that you transform your story into your message. When you stand and share your story in an empowering way, your story will heal you and will heal somebody else. The third T is transcend beyond your limiting mind. I've learned that in order to live your best life, you must transcend beyond your limiting thoughts. To let go of old thoughts such as, I don't have support, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough knowledge, what if I fail, what will people think? And create new thoughts. I am not alone. I can learn anything. I am prosperous and resourceful. Failure is part of my success. I have an inner brilliance. You have the power to decide what voice you want to listen to, what voice you allow to be dominant, to feel with each cell of your body that you can achieve anything that you were put on this earth to do, to embody the life of your dreams, believing it's already happening for you, and then allowing it to happen, even if it's in unexpected ways. You can't go to greatness. You must be greatness. And for years, I've searched for outer validation and for people to acknowledge my inner brilliance, but it wasn't until I unleashed it that my true power came. Everything you can imagine is real. So be brilliant. Thank you very much.